Good morning. Here is what we are tracking in the High Definition Newsroom this Wednesday morning. The video of a police officer hurling a female high school student and the chair she is sitting in to the floor of a South Carolina classroom is difficult to listen to, even harder to watch. That video is at the center of an investigation that may result in Richland County Sheriff's Deputy Ben Fields losing his job. It happened 2 days ago at the Spring Valley High School in Columbia, South Carolina. Police say the student, who is African American, was disrupting her class and refused to leave the room at the teacher's request. An administrator called Deputy Fields, who is a school safety officer who works full-time on campus and who is white. The sheriff's department says the student refused to follow Fields' orders, and that's when the confrontation began. Another student in the class told reporters when she objected to Deputy Fields' treatment of the first student, whose name has not been released, she was also taken into custody briefly. The video and a second video from a slightly different perspective have both gone viral. Deputy Fields has been placed on leave, and his boss, Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott, is announcing at this very moment the results of his department's investigation and whether Deputy Fields will be fired. Let's listen in live.
Was not allowing the teacher to teach and was not allowing the students to learn. She was very disruptive, she was very disrespectful, and she started this whole instance with her actions. She refused to lead the class as directed by the teacher. She refused to follow his instructions. He called for assistance from the school administrator. The school administrator got there, who is African American, and he attempted to get her to leave the class also. She refused his instructions, was continually disrespectful to him.
Once again, this is Richland County, South Carolina Sheriff Leon Lott announcing the results live at this moment of the investigation into whether Deputy Fields should be fired for hurling a student to the floor 2 days ago.
School Resource Officer Ben Fields was called. The situation was explained to him. He attempted to get the student to leave. He was then asked to remove her from the class. And at that point, I think we've seen the various videos. I will note that the teacher and the school administrator in their statements both fully support the actions of Ben Fields. They said that he acted appropriately, that he didn't use excessive force, and he did what was necessary. And that came from both of them who were present when this happened. The third video from another student who also supports Officer Fields actually shows the female student striking Ben Fields and her resisting when he tried to get her from her chair.
Sheriff Lott is going through the story of what happened at Spring Valley High School 2 days ago. While he's doing that, we'll say that Lonnie Randolph of the South Carolina NAACP told reporters yesterday that the incident is just an indicator of a larger problem.
I want to throw up.
Race is indeed a factor, and of course people will admit something else and say that it isn't, but we do have a problem in South Carolina, and we do have a problem in America.
The federal government has opened its own investigation into the incident. It will take several weeks to reach its conclusion, but Sheriff Lott in Columbia, South Carolina, is announcing the results of the Richland County's investigation into the incident right now, live in Columbia, South Carolina.
Continuum, how we train our officers, and what we expect of them in circumstances like this. Their recommendation to me was that Deputy Fields did not follow proper training, did not follow proper procedure when he threw the student across the room. From the very beginning, that's what's caused me to be upset when I first saw that video, and continues to upset me when I see that video, is the fact that he picked the student up and he threw the student across the room. That is not a proper technique and should not be used in law enforcement. And based on that, that is a violation of our policy. And approximately 20 minutes ago, School Resource Officer Ben Fields was terminated from the Richland County Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff Leon Lott of Richland County, South Carolina, announcing live on K-Beach that the officer involved in that incident in South Carolina on Monday has been fired from that sheriff's department as a result of that the incident we saw in that viral video. The other controversy involving policing that has captured the nation's attention this morning involves President Obama and the director of the FBI apparently having a difference of views on something called the Ferguson effect. The Ferguson effect is the alleged impact of videos and protests following police incidents involving African-American suspects and allegations of excessive use of force by police officers. The FBI director, James Comey, says he's not sure why the incidents of murders have spiked in several American cities, including Baltimore, in the last few months. He says, but one of the reasons may be the so-called Ferguson effect. This is what FBI Director Comey told the International Order of Chiefs of Police meeting in Chicago 2 days ago.
I do have a strong sense that some part of the explanation is a chill wind that has blown through law enforcement over the last year. And that wind is surely changing behavior.
Well, President Obama addressed the International Order of Chiefs of Police convention in his hometown of Chicago yesterday, and he seemed to take issue with what Director Comey said, and he also had some blame for the news media.
I reject any narrative that seeks to divide police and communities that they serve. I reject a storyline that says, when it comes to public safety, there's an us and a them, a narrative that too often gets served up to us by news stations seeking ratings or tweets seeking retweets or political candidates seeking some attention.
When you don't know who to blame, blame the news media. President Obama did say that a couple of weeks ago he was talking with LAPD Chief Charlie Beck, and the president said he admitted that as a young man, before he said, before I had a motorcade, I was stopped a few times for speeding, and he says a few times I was guilty. But he says also a few times I was not guilty, and it led him to wonder if there had been racial bias involved in his being stopped by police earlier in his life. They are watching the tide this morning in Seal Beach and all along the Southern California coast. They are looking for a high tide that is due to happen about 4 minutes from now at about 9:15. That is going to be unusually high even for those north and northwest facing beaches that are used to high tides at this time of year. The reason is twofold. South swells that are due from Hurricane Olaf, and also a north swell that is caused by some high tides in the Aleutian Islands of Alaska. That happened about a week ago. And people in Seal Beach have been bracing for this, even though they're used to high tides.
Because it comes in, it generally goes high enough to flood out their garage, especially the ones that are facing the beach.
I'm a resident of Seal Beach my whole life, and my hope is that the residents have taken proper precautions and to limit the damage that could be done to their property.
I did sandbag some of my areas, my garage, and I just took my car out and lifted things off, the ground and so forth.
Malibu, Seal Beach, Sunset Beach, Surfride, these are all going to be facing high tides all the way through Friday. Once again, it's supposed to peak around now in Southern California. West and northwest facing beaches are where the high tide warning is in effect. On the border of Long Beach and Carson yesterday, a shipping container on a flatbed truck fell off the truck and crushed a bicyclist. It's an unusually cruel and terrible accident. And it had people wondering, why would it happen? Why would this shipping container fall off this flatbed truck? Well, David Alba, who works as an employee at the Port of Los Angeles, says he thinks he knows. He says partly to blame is the strike of port workers that's underway right now.
Those containers weigh from 40,000 and up, and right now, since we're on strike, the 18-wheelers aren't taking out the containers. I'm assuming that they're hiring those flatbeds, because yesterday was a flatbed too. They just strap them on with straps, and obviously the 40,000 pounds isn't going to have enough integrity for the container.
The Teamsters Union is calling on the federal government to get involved and make sure those containers are more securely fastened to any trucks that are shipping them. Big discussion of tuition funding and tuition fees on Cal State campuses this morning. The LA Times is reporting that a committee for the California State University is recommending that CSU raise tuition both for California residents and for out-of-state students, and that academic schedules should go year-round, and that campus funding should be based on graduation rates. This is after all of the funding arguments that CSU and UC had with Governor Brown earlier this year because of the shortage in the state budget, and Governor Brown's initial refusal to put more money for CSU and UC in the state budget. And now this special committee has recommended that CSU raise tuition. It has been 4 years since CSU actually raised tuition. The CSU trustees will take up this report and decide what to do at their November board meeting here on the CSU campus in Long Beach. There was an announcement from House Speaker John Boehner yesterday on Capitol Hill that came as a little bit of a surprise if you have been watching the fighting going on Capitol Hill lately.
Having listened to our members and listened to the American people, we have a budget agreement.
We have a budget agreement, says the outgoing Speaker of the House. And what that means is that for the remainder of President Obama's term, there will be no threat of a federal government shutdown. It's a 2-year agreement. The House Republican caucus will approve it or not in a vote tomorrow. But today, behind closed doors, the action will be that they will nominate Paul Ryan to be the next Speaker of the House. The full House votes on that as well tomorrow. Donald Trump is not happy at being number 2, so he's trying harder to get attention. He said yesterday in Iowa that he's not satisfied with being behind Ben Carson in the latest polls of the Republican race for the Republican presidential nomination.
From the time I announced, I've been at the top of the polls, almost at the top. You know, we're doing well. Iowa, will you get your numbers up, please? Hey, when you get these numbers up, I promise you I will do such a good job. I mean, I am second. It's not like terrible, but I don't like being second. Second is terrible to me.
Trump and all the other Republican candidates will be in Boulder, Colorado this afternoon for the next Republican presidential candidates debate, 3 p.m. on CNBC. So you can expect the economy to dominate the discussion in that debate. And in space, the action is all about a spacewalk. Scott Kelly, who is already on his way to setting a record for the longest mission in space, is outside this morning working on the vehicle.
I thought it was 2 and 2, but it looks like it'll be the first one and then the next 3.
Hey, Scott, you're going to be the best judge of that. We're looking at your WVS camera, and so far we concur with that.
He's got his tool belt on, and he's working on the International Space Station. And Chris Hadfield, who once did a spacewalk of his own as a former commander of the International Space Station, told CNN this morning, what's going on out there?
The 2 new American spaceships, the Starliner and the Dragon, that are coming up in the next couple of years, they have to dock with sort of different mechanisms. So the guys are out there to put up a bunch of new wires to power up those docking mechanisms. So there are electricians today, a little bit of plumbing going on, and a little bit of sunshades going on. So it's a busy day for the 2 of them.
Aren't you supposed to save that kind of thing for Saturday morning? But Hadfield also says that the astronauts are well taken care of in terms of safety.
They wear a suit that it's like a one-person spaceship, but strapped to the back of it is actually a jetpack. Just in case their little safety line broke and they went tumbling off into space, like you saw in Gravity, they could pull down this handle, a joystick pops out, and then they could actually fly their jetpack. More like a parachute, really, just to get you back safely and grab onto the station. You sure don't want to use it, but it's nice to have it just in case.
How come nobody told George Clooney? Oh, sorry, spoiler alert. Hadfield says the best thing about doing a spacewalk, though, is not the work on the spacecraft. It's being able to look around and see something that nobody else can see.
The soundtrack is your own breathing. You hear your own heartbeat and your own breathing, and you're alone in the universe. And it's your breathing is sort of a reminder that you're alive. And you are not on the world, which is very different. You're in the universe, and the world is separate from you, and it's rolling by at 5 miles a second. And you're focused as can be to get the job done, but it's everything you can do just not to be gobsmacked by where you are.
Just like my commute to Long Beach, the World Cup winning U.S. women's national soccer team had its moment in the sun at the White House yesterday, where President Obama said it's different for a girl.
This team taught all America's children that playing like a girl means you're a badass. And perhaps I shouldn't have used that phrase. Playing like a girl means being the best.
I like it when the president has a potty mouth. Now you know what we know. I'm Jeff Kaufman, High Definition News.